If you or someone you love relies on a blue badge to get around, this update is absolutely critical. In 2025, the rules have quietly but drastically changed, and if you're not careful, what used to be a perfectly legal parking spot could now land you with a massive fine of up to £1,100. Yes, you heard that right, over £1,000 just for parking in the wrong place, even with a valid blue badge on your dashboard. Councils across England, Scotland, and Wales are cracking down on misuse and tightening enforcement. But here's the problem. Some of these new restrictions aren't clearly marked. That means even careful, law-abiding badge holders could unknowingly break the rules. And we're not just talking about private car parks or loading bays anymore. Some high streets, hospitals, train stations, and even council-run spaces are now part of the banned list, and the list is growing. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 12 specific places where blue badge holders can no longer legally park in 2025, and I'll explain exactly why, what's changed, and how to avoid falling into these expensive traps. I'll also tell you which councils are enforcing these new fines most aggressively, and what to do if you think you've been wrongly ticketed. It's frustrating, it's confusing, and let's be honest, it feels unfair when those who genuinely need the blue badge are suddenly being punished for policies they were never warned about. That's why this video is so important. If you value this kind of information that can save you money, stress, and possibly a legal headache, then do me a favor, tap that like button right now. It helps this video reach more badge holders before they get hit with a fine they didn't see coming. Let's dive in. So let's get into it, because this isn't just about a list of 12 places. It's about understanding a broader shift in how councils and transport authorities are treating blue badge parking across the UK. For decades, the blue badge scheme has been a lifeline for millions of people with disabilities, chronic conditions, or serious mobility issues. It's not a luxury, it's a necessity. It allows people to park closer to where they need to be: shops, medical facilities, public buildings, and places where walking long distances just isn't possible. But as we head deeper into 2025, something rather concerning is happening. Instead of making the world more accessible, local councils are putting up invisible barriers, and it's hitting blue badge users the hardest. What we're seeing now is a combination of increased enforcement, digital surveillance, automatic fines, and changes in traffic orders, all happening quietly and often without clear public warning. It's like the rules are changing in the background while nobody's looking. And for many people, especially elderly or vulnerable drivers, it's becoming harder to keep up. The list of places where you can no longer park, even with a valid badge, is expanding fast. Some of the areas are obvious, like private land or clearly marked restricted zones. But others are shockingly unexpected. Certain retail parks have opted out of honoring blue badges altogether. Some city centers have introduced clean air zones or pedestrian priority areas where badge holders are no longer exempt. In some boroughs, parking near schools or government offices is now off limits under new safety rules. And while these changes might make sense from a planning or safety perspective, the way they've been implemented is leaving a lot of people out of the loop until they get slapped with a fine through the post. The most troubling part of this whole thing is how the enforcement is being handled. In many places, the traditional traffic wardens are being replaced or backed up by ANPR cameras, those number plate recognition systems that automatically track who parks where and for how long. These systems don't see a blue badge on your dashboard. They don't care if you've parked there for medical reasons or because you simply had no choice. If you're parked in one of the newly restricted zones, even for just a few minutes, the system logs your plate, issues the penalty, and you get a fine in the mail days later. No warning, no discussion, no humanity, and by the time it arrives, the damage is done. What's also frustrating is how inconsistent the rules are from one place to another. You could drive 20 minutes from one town where a space is perfectly legal to another where the exact same type of space is now off limits to blue badge holders. That inconsistency is creating a lot of confusion, especially for those who travel frequently or rely on their cars for essential errands. We've even heard from people who were fined for parking outside their own GP surgery, because the council had recently designated the surrounding area as a restricted zone for pollution control. It's almost impossible to keep up unless you check every sign, every council website, and every new update, which, let's be honest, most people simply don't have the time or energy to do. Then there's the issue of signage, or rather, the lack of it. In some areas, new rules have been introduced without clear on-site signs indicating that the space is now off-limits to badge holders. You pull into what looks like a perfectly normal disabled bay, display your badge as you always have, go about your business, and then a week later, boom, a £1,100 fine arrives on your doorstep. It's not just a financial blow, it's a mental one. It feels like a betrayal of a system that's supposed to protect your rights and support your needs. And that betrayal stings even more when you realize that these changes are often brought in without proper consultation with the people they affect most, the very users of the Blue Badge scheme. And while we're on the topic of consultation, it's worth mentioning that a number of disability rights groups have raised red flags about these new restrictions. They argue that councils are prioritizing revenue and traffic control over accessibility and fairness. Some groups have pointed out that these changes may even breach the Equality Act 2010, which requires reasonable adjustments for disabled individuals. But so far, most councils seem to be pressing ahead regardless, claiming the changes are necessary for safety, congestion, and climate goals. These are valid goals, sure, but should they come at the cost of someone's ability to get to the pharmacy, or to attend a hospital appointment, or to live independently? This whole situation creates a real sense of anxiety for Blue Badge holders and their families. Every trip becomes a gamble. You're constantly second-guessing whether a spot is safe to use, whether a rule has changed, or whether some obscure camera is watching you. And the financial risk is enormous. A £1,100 fine is not a small amount. It's the kind of penalty that could wipe out someone's monthly income or eat into their savings, especially for pensioners or those on fixed benefits. It's not a slap on the wrist, it's a punch to the gut. And that level of stress is simply unacceptable for people who already have enough to deal with in their daily lives. We've also seen stories of badge holders being fined for stopping momentarily to drop someone off, not even parking for long, just pausing to assist a loved one into a building. Under the new rules in some council areas, even stopping briefly in certain restricted spaces can trigger a penalty. Imagine helping your elderly mother into the clinic only to come back to a £1,100 charge just for doing the right thing. It's madness, and it goes completely against the spirit of the Blue Badge system. On top of all that, let's not forget the digital divide. Many of the appeals processes are now entirely online. That might be fine for younger drivers who are tech-savvy, but what about older adults who struggle with computers or people who don't have reliable internet access? What about those who aren't fluent in English and can't navigate complex digital portals? These people are at an even higher risk of being penalized without the means to defend themselves. And when they try to call for help, they're met with long wait times, automated systems, or unhelpful responses from outsourced call centers. As we move further into 2025, it's crucial for all Blue Badge users and their families and carers to stay updated on local parking regulations. You can do this by checking your local council's parking policies, signing up for alerts if they offer them, and even speaking to your MP or local representative if you feel the rules are unfair. The more noise we make, the more pressure councils will feel to balance enforcement with compassion. And let's be honest, we need more compassion, not less. At the end of the day, the Blue Badge isn't just a sticker on a dashboard. It represents years of advocacy, personal struggle, and a legal right to access the world on equal footing. These new parking bans and hidden fines threaten to undo that progress. So if you've been fined unfairly, don't stay silent. Appeal it. Share your story. Let others know what's happening so they don't fall into the same trap. And please remember, if this video helped you understand what's changing and how to protect yourself, take a moment to hit that like button. Not just to support the channel, but to make sure YouTube shows this to more people who might be one parking spot away from a £1,100 fine they didn't see coming. We can only make change by spreading awareness, and you can be part of that effort. If you haven't already subscribed, do it now, because I'll be posting even more updates on parking laws, mobility rights, and policy changes that directly impact Blue Badge users. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Stay safe, stay informed, and never stop fighting for your right to park where you need to be.